conservative cough, with mild dyspnea, but usually you notice the cough is not getting better, no, maybe it doesn't seem to be responding to treatment or sobrang dalas tubod-sipunin, but do you know that a normal child can have 6 to 8 bouts of cough and colds a year and still be considered normal? Kaya lang, madali lang siyang gumaling. Okay, magtatanong ka sa TB. Parang hindi na yatang gumagaling, no? So, or hindi nawawalan tubo. But that's why if you happen to come across a child like that, you might as well work up this stream, no? As for an exposure, and then yun nga, you may have to screen the patient. Anyway, systemic complaints, low-grade fever, di ba? Ano yan? Classic TB na kadalasan sa hapon, night sweats, o ano rin siya is very prominent. In a case that turned out to be a disease, nalanggana, no? Hindi siya kumakain, even if they give them restaurant food, ayaw kumain. Or the mother may notice that the child is not taking his or her milk well. And because of that, what will you notice? Weight loss, a decrease in weight, no? And or some kids may be noticed to have decreased activity, but this systemic complaints supposedly occur less often. Okay? Yan, poor weight gain. Naku, napaka-ano yan, poor weight gain, Taylor tribe. And because of the compression, remember what we were about earlier, of the airways by the enlarged lymph nodes, no, that can cause wheezing. So in what disease do you see wheezing? Asthma. So ingat kayo sa hika, especially in the Philippines. Not all wheezing has to be asthma. Ha? So maybe in the background of parating inuubo, yung wheezing hindi tumataba, ay nako, you might as well screen, no, for tuberculosis. Okay, so that's primary tuberculosis. So what did we say? Most of the, what we call these lesions improve, no, supposedly resolve, but yeah, a serious complication, it could be what's called primary progressive pulmonary disease, wherein the primary focus, instead of resolving, becomes bigger, no, into a large caseous center with liquefaction, forming a primary cavity with large number of TB bacilli. Okay, so these cases will have more signs and symptoms: fever, severe cough with sputum production, weight loss, and night sweats. And on physical exam, you may take note of the Fishbeck sounds, growls, and dullness over the cavity. So if you see a child very young like that, whose chest who is symptomatic and the chest x-ray reveals cavitations, even if young siya. Strictly speaking, that's not primary tuberculosis, it should be primary progressive tuberculosis. Okay. Like I said, TB doesn't stop in the lungs, no? The bacilli undergo lymphohematogenous spread to distant areas in all cases. Okay? And usually it happens quietly where the patient may not have symptoms at all. So, clinical picture depends on the burden of organisms released from primary focus and the host cellular immune response. So, large number of circulating bacilli, pag madaming bacilli, with inadequate host immune response, then that could lead to a disseminated TB disease. But more often, konti lang, with only few circulating bacilli with inapparent metastatic foci. So, pumupunta sila sa ibang organs, but inapparent, not symptomatic yet. But later on, in some of these patients, it could be the source of extrapulmonary tuberculosis, and even reactivation in TB. So, for disseminated TB, it may be acute. The patient may have acute signs and symptoms, but more often indolent and prolonged, no, with spiking fever. So it's one of the important causes of what you call fever of unknown, or yung pwedeng lagnat lang sa umpisa. But later on, yan, the patient will present with multiple organ involvement, no, including hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, even lymphadenitis in superficial or deep nose, and there may be lesions on the skin. Patients may go into bone and joint or even kidney involvement. And some of these patients with disseminated TB will end with meningitis. Now, if there's meningitis, it's late, usually late in the course of the disease. So usually early pulmonary involvement is mild but become diffuse with prolonged infection. So that's disseminated tuberculosis. What is biliary tuberculosis? Biliary tuberculosis actually is a form of disseminated TB due to massive invasion of the bloodstream by the TB bacilli. How does that happen? Saan nanggagaling yung bacilli? So it usually comes from a caseous focus, usually a lymph node that erodes. So yung caseous, is it caseous or caseous? Erodes into a blood vessel, blood or lymphatic vessel, and that's how the bacilli can get hematogenicity. And how would you know that it's biliary? It's by chest X-ray, because on X-ray, but you don't see it well, you will see millet seed-like lesions with tunduk-tunduk. Millet seed-like lesions, 2 to 3 millimeters all over the lung, fills. Usually on the lungs, but some patients may have it on the spleen or the liver. If you are not trained to be looking at X-ray showing biliary pattern, you would mistake it for severe pneumonia. So that's why you really have you develop the habit of looking at the X-rays yourselves. Some radiologists even missed it. No, but that's why you have to look closely. Because silent it doesn't look, I'm sure you can look it up in the internet. So for an X-ray that has the biliary pattern. It's most common, so it happens, it affects all ages, especially infants. Tapos, if this happens, it's during the first 2 to 6 months of infection. Diba sinabi ko yung TBM or disseminated TB, usually the first 2 to 6 months. So, those with biliary tuberculosis, the onset is insidious, with low-grade fever, weight loss, and anorexia. Pwede ganun lang. And then later on, you'll have the patient present with general lymphadenopathy and hepatosplenomegaly. Okay, and progression of the pulmonary disease leads to what is called alveolar air block syndrome, wherein the patient then will present with frank respiratory distress, causing hypoxia, pneumothorax, or even pneumonia. And about 20 to 40% of cases can have meningitis or even pneumonitis. Okay, pleural effusion. Asymptomatic pleural effusion is so common in primary TB. That's why this is considered as part of the primary complex. So, what is primary complex? Didn't we say it's a radiographic diagnosis that will show you the primary focus or a non-specific infiltrate plus regional lymphadenopathy. But some patients can also have pleurisy as part of the primary complex. But uncommon in children like under 6, it's often unilateral, one-sided lang. But could be bilateral. How does it present? It's often sudden, with low to high grade fever, shortness of breath, chest pain, on deep inspiration. Of course, make sure you're not, when you examine your patient well, and make sure you won't miss that very important point. If there's water, fluid is the full space, that will be what? Noted as decreased breath sounds, di ba? So, galing mo pag yung na-note mo yon na without the chest X-ray. Kasi pag napa-chest X-ray mo na, syempre, nakita mo na yon, di ba? But you're a very good clinician if on physical exam, you're able to auscultate the presence of decreased breath sounds. Okay, so usually the workup includes a skin test and 7 to 80% of cases may have a positive tuberculin test. And what is that? There's significant thoracentesis is done, and what's that? The pleural fluid will be sent for analysis, and there's what's called Light's criteria. That will explain in pulmonology. Anyway, where they look at this is the gravity protein glucose. So usually, if it's TB exudative, yung picture niya is exudative. Usually with PM formal or polymorphonuclear predominance, but it could be later on. Later it will turn out to be symptomatic. So will a smear, every smear be useful? It should not really, because it's rare, pleural fluid rarely would be passed by smear. But if you have it at all, culture or gene expert, perhaps better on sensitivity. And I understand requesting for adenosine deaminase for pleural fluid, very helpful, no? Because it's usually increased. Okay, into TB, or yun, biopsy of the pleural membrane is likely to be positive for AFP or culture. And, or yun nga, pag histopath, there may be no amount of granuloma formation. So if not, so another way by which TB can be set on the lungs will be as a bukol, no mass. So in case you come across a patient with or without symptoms, and then on X-ray, it will be read as a mass. How you wish, that's what you call tuberculoma, tuberculoma. How you wish it were just tuberculosis and not a malignancy, It can also present as a pericardial disease, but not so common, no? This is said to occur in 0.5 to 4% of TB in children, So how did it get there? It could be from direct invasion or lymphatic drainage from the subchoroidal lymph nodes. Signs and symptoms would be non-specific, low-grade fever, malaise, weight loss, and yun nga, what you expect if there's pericarditis will be a pericardial friction rub. So if you do this, that's how it sounds. No? If you like, rub your hair, that's how a friction rub would sound. Or parang napakalayo yung heart, no? Distant heart sounds with what's called pulsus paradoxus. So these are non-specific signs and symptoms for the presence of a pericarditis. And so if there's enough pericardial fluid, usually TCVS, thoracovascular surgeon is going to do pericardiocentesis. Meron na rin pala mga invasive cardiologists, no? They do pericardiocentesis, and then you have the fluid examined. So usually, if it were tuberculous, no, it's fibrous or hemorrhagic. This smears again will be rarely positive. So you want to have a culture, possible. And usually, if you have a tissue, they check it for pericardial biopsy and granuloma. What about upper respiratory tract disease? So, it could be as laryngeal, TB, acute, like cough, sore throat, hoarseness, and dyspnea. Pero very seldom that it will be TB if it's an upper respiratory tract. See, there are more common causes, right, of flu, diba? Laryngotracheal bronchitis, mga sort of, usually viruses are more common. But what I've encountered is TB of the middle ear, presenting as painless unilateral otorrhea. Meluga yung pasyente, usually one-sided na not seemingly responding to antibiotics. So be careful, no? Because some of these cases may turn out to be TB of the middle ear. But that is not common. May makikita pa isa-isa. The most common cause of bacterial infections, no, would still be the most common cause of acute or chronic otitis media. But just be careful, no, because you may come across a case presenting as painless unilateral otorrhea, not responding to appropriate antibiotics. We better work them up for TB. So the diagnosis is difficult. Stains and cultures of ill fluid are often negative, and histology often show a non-specific acute and chronic inflammation without granular formation. And what's the most common extrapulmonary tuberculosis? Is tuberculosis of the superficial lymph node, which you call as scrofula. So which are the most common sites? The anterior, cervical, tonsillar, or it could be submandibular, or even the supraclavicular lymph nodes. And characteristically, the node, the TB lymph, the TB of the Lincoln is painless. Hindi siya masakit as compared to bacterial adenitis. That is one of the common causes of bacterial would be either with a strep, or usually tender sila. But if it were tuberculosis, it's painless and large, initially firm and movable, but eventually they become adherent. And that's what you refer to as matted. Parang it gives you a matted feel, parang pag ginano yung pagdami mong nakakapa. Okay? It usually resolves, but should it progress to cacheation and necrosis and drains into the skin, we call that as prophyloderma. So for these cases, usually they have a reactive tuberculin test. The chest x-ray may be normal. See? Meron siyang TB of the Lincoln normal x-ray. So, just be careful. A normal x-ray won't rule out tuberculosis. So, ba't nawala yung ano? Nandun sa prophyloderma. Anyway, the most serious complication in children will have to be TB meningitis. Yes. It's the most common, the most serious complication of tuberculosis in children is the most, TBM, not tuberculosis meningitis, is the most common type of the infection of the CNS, and again, what did we say? Usually developing within 2 to 6 months after initial infection. Where did it come from? It came from a metastatic caseous lesion in the cerebral cortex or meninges following the lymphohematogenous decimation that occurred earlier during the primary infection. And it can accompany miliary TB in about half of the cases. Where's the most common site? The brain stem. Therefore, if you remember in anatomy, diba dun sa brain stem, dun dumadaan yung mga cranial nerves. That's why a very important finding of these kids will be diplopia, no? Because of the involvement of this frequent dysfunction of the cranial nerves 3, 6, and 7. And the exudate, when exudates develop, this will interfere with CSF flow, so that most of these kids with TBM will have hydrocephalus, some form of communicating hydrocephalus. So that's one feature of TBM wherein hydrocephalus sets in kind of early. So, the presence of vasculitis, infarction, cerebral edema, and hydrocephalus all would contribute or result to severe damage. What age is TBM most commonly seen? In what age? 6 months to 4 years old. And as compared to bacterial meningitis, the signs and symptoms progress slowly. Okay, for weeks to days to weeks, not like if Bachman, 3-4 days and yan na. Okay, but for TBM, usually the signs progress slowly. Kaya, you may see them in 3 stages. Stage 1, in stage 1, the early stage, the presentation may just be irritability, behavioral changes like apathy, nagsusuka-suka, headache for 1 to 2 weeks. I've seen in those cases that turned out to be TBM where the presentation was just vomiting and they kept going from one doctor to another and the doctor was just trying to treat the patient for a general problem only to turn out as TB meningitis. Or yung sakit ulo na po. Just be careful because if it's persistent, you need to have a check-up. Because again, we come across adolescents who eventually had TBM just presenting as headache. So, migraine, kung ano-ano naisip, papunta sa iba-ibang doktor. So, usually if it's stage 1, a little difficult or very challenging to diagnose as TBM. Pero galing mo, no, pag na-catch mo siya as just stage 1. Most of the cases would be recognized stage 2. Kasi pag stage 2, yan na, after having non-specific signs and symptoms for days 2, ayan na. There will be pressure signs, no? So, nag-convulsion, there will be pressure and medial signs, there's lethargy, stiffness, seizure, and even cranial nerve palsies. And I think the presence of so when you go on to work up this kid, and they show on imaging there's hydrocephalus, I think it's At least stage 2 yan pag may hydrocephalus. Kung hindi mo pa rin na-pick up na tuberculosis pala, TBM pala at ginagamot mo for possible bacterial meningitis. Ayan, pag nagganyan siya, no? That stage 3 na, yung paralytic or terminal stage, no? And you see them, medyo nahuli ka na yata sa recognition. No? But unfortunately, there are parents who bring their kids late, no? Or some doctors don't even get to recognize. That's why always have a very high index of tuberculous meningitis in a child having presenting with signs and symptoms that are evolving insidiously. So posturing, profound neurologic and sensory changes with deterioration of vital signs, eventual death, and in infants it could encephalitic manifestations may predominate. So, yeah. What about TB of the bones and or joints? Is it common? Not really. No, mga 1 to 6% of children with untreated primary infection. It occurs when at least 1 year, after the initial infection. And most common, weight-bearing bones and joints, especially the vertebra, causing TB of the spine or what's called Pott's disease. So kadalasan may history of trauma as a contributory factor, which the book says may be either activating the trauma, previous trauma could be activating a quiescent lesion or drawing attention to the process. Yan, TB of the bone. So spine was common in both the spine, upper lumbar or lumbosacral, most common site. So these kids supposedly express night na nag-iiyak sa gabi, no? With restless sleep, they have a peculiar gait, but sometimes it's not recognized until yun na, there is gibbous formation. Diba sa streets, nakikita minsan mga batang ganyan, with destruction of vertebra, you expect gibbous formation. Like gibbous deformity. What about TB of the joints? Usually, TB of the joints present as a chronic monoarthritis, just one side, no? Monoarthritis of either hip, knee, and ankle. So, the joint pains, no, is insidious, progressing over weeks to months, just with mild pain and swelling without acute redness or high fever. So, what did you notice about TB? It can mimic any disease, but you notice that the onset is insidious, no, where signs and symptoms evolve slowly, no? Slowly, as compared to the more common causes of acute infections. Abdominal, and it can also be abdominal and GI TB. So, can I see? There's TB enteritis. Again, how did it occur? By hematogenous dissemination or swallowed. The infection could have been acquired from swallowed bacilli from the lungs. The most common sites, jejunum and ileum, near the Peyer's patches and appendix. And typical findings will be shallow ulcers. Okay, so pag merong shallow ulcers, sakit ang tiyan, nagtatae, having diarrhea, constipation, weight loss, and low fever. And the presence of mesenteric adenitis, so syempre tumalaki yung mesenteric lymph nodes, can complicate na infection wherein the enlarged nose may cause intestinal obstruction or erode omentum to cause generalized peritonitis. So I remember Dr. Bagnet, you met him in anatomy. He's practicing in Fatima, and he was telling of this case. An adult, I don't know how old, but they had to open up. It presented as an acute abdomen. But on opening up, ano pala, TB, or tuberculosis. So that can happen, no? The clinical present is actually non-specific, but always be suspecting of TB, GI TB, no? In any child with chronic GI complaints and reactive tuberculitis. So when you work them up, so they're chronic GI complaints, abdominal. We see a lot of that there in the children's hospital. And usually adolescents having chronic GI complaints. And then when you work them up, a tuberculosis pala. So tuberculosis of the skin, no? When the, could be as croculoderma. Mag-ingat kayo. So the more common causes of adenitis, especially acute adenitis, lymphadenema, would be bacterial, yung strep or staph aureus. But they won't suppurate. They won't suppurate into the skin. Kasi pag nag-suppurate into the skin, lalo na merong mga, ano dyan, at tawag dito, merong, what do you call that? Pag gumaling na, scar. Minsan kasi scar na lang makita mo eh. Ay, mag-isip ka ng scrofuloderma. Because if it were bacterial, it's not supposed to suppurate or won't even develop into a scar. Unfortunately, these kids get treated for, are given antibiotic. Gumagaling naman, no? But yun nga, but if that were back, it's not supposed to suppurate into the skin because you see a lesion like even with scars na po, you work up. Most likely, that would have to be scrofuloderma. Another TB of the skin will be what's called erythema nodosum. So I got photos. They're described as tender, red, or purple, painful nodules. Triggered by TB and other systemic disease. So you know, ang erythema nodosum, take note, it's not specific for tuberculosis. Nakikita rin daw sa IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, and what is called sarcoidosis. So it's not just specific to TB. Pero pag dito sa Pilipinas, pag nakita mo, need to work up for tuberculosis. Renal TB, we mentioned that. It can also affect the kidneys, but how many years later? No, 5 to 10 years later. So if you come across TB, renal TB, mas adolescents usually and adults. And how does it present? Oh, sterile pyuria. So pyuria, remember pyuria, inansyado symptomatic, most would need to think of what? UTI, mas makala mo ordinary UTI. But if you come across a case with significant pyuria, and then with a negative, no, maybe you do cultures, but you've not been getting a positive bacterial culture, then they have to consider the possibility of renal TB. So they present as sterile microscopic hematuria, and clinically yun, dysuria, there's phlegm or abdominal pain, and there may be gross hematuria later on. Okay? Unfortunately, like I said, they get treated as bacterial UTI kasi bacterial superinfection is common, no? So this causes delay in diagnosis. And apparently, if you do urine culture, positive siya for TB in 80 to 90% of cases. Okay? But, do we see a lot of it? It's not common, but there in the children's hospital where I also work, we get to see this case of renal TB every now and then. What about genitourinary TB? This is uncommon, okay? And among adults and girls, the most common site will be the fallopian tubes, endometrium next, and the ovaries, and less common will be the cervix. And what's the most common presentation? Lower of the abdominal pain and dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea. So for those of you who will be practicing gynecology later on, no? It could be primary amenorrhea or pwedeng bigla na lang, secondary amenorrhea. Okay, so in boys, adolescent boys, it could be as epididymitis or orchitis, unilateral nodal, painless scrotal swelling. So last week, we have this pre-fellow from Cotabato. And that's what she presented. She saw a case, she encountered a case at the outpatient. How old was it? 14 years old. Having scrotal swelling for how long? 1 year. So medyo na delay. That's what we were pointing out to them because midway, they were all, when the patient was being treated as bacterial epididymitis, not sexually active yet. Midway, supposedly seen in the outpatient there in the Children's Hospital. TB of the scrotum was already, what they call this, was already being considered yet. Ano ba yung mali nila kuna? I don't know what they requested for. Urinalysis lang yata. They forgot to do a complete workup including chest x-ray because when the patient was finally admitted, Diyos ko, chest x-ray niya, yung left lang niya puti. Bronchiectatic na pala. Yet the patient had no signs and symptoms, was not coughing at all except just 1 week before. So that's how TB is. So that's why you said, sayang, had they work up the child period, doing complete workup, pati chest x-ray, even if the patient was not coughing, maybe the diagnosis of TB, scrotal TB would have been made early. Okay, tapos, perinatal disease. What's perinatal? Sa baby, di ba, newborn. So, take note, TB can be transmitted transplacentally, or by aspiration or ingestion of amniotic fluid. But the most common way by which a newborn can get infected will be what? Postnatal airborne transmission. Pagkanganak ni baby, ayan, exposed to family members who may have tuberculosis. So if these babies become symptomatic, what age? Usually by the 2nd or the 3rd week of life, presenting with respiratory distress, fever, hepatosplenomegaly, poor feeding, lethargy or irritability, lymphadenopathy, abdominal distension, even failure to thrive, and workup would show hilar and mediastinal lymphadenopathy and lung infiltrate, and fevers present with the biliary pattern. However, take note, the signs and symptoms are almost similar to bacterial sepsis and other congenital infections like syphilis, toxoplasmosis, and CMV. But a very important clue that you may be dealing with congenital TB will be maternal or family history of tuberculosis. So make sure, those of you who will be taking care of pregnant women later on, make sure you check on that the mother doesn't have TB. So, unfortunately, tuberculin test in this very young infant could initially be negative, but eventually will be reactive in 1 to 3 months. So that we talk about primary tuberculosis, post-primary, the varieties of extrapulmonary TB. What is reactivation TB? This is seen among adolescents or adults, especially those who acquired the infection when they were more than 7 years old. Okay, so most common sites, original parenchymal focus, the lymph nodes, or the apices. I'm sure I don't know if you've come across the word Simon-Foss sign. So apical infiltration suggestive of TB. So usually adolescent, most common chest x-ray findings, extensive infiltrate or thick walled cavities in the upper lobe, and symptomatically, there's low fever, anorexia, malaise, weight loss, night sweats, productive cough, even hemoptysis, and even chest pain. Okay, so for intensified case finding, the WH or is recommending screening. How do you screen for TB? 2 ways. Via symptoms, symptomatology, and or chest x-ray. So take note, in tuberculosis, ang age group below 15 years old is child. But 15 years old and older, adult. But strictly speaking, di ba, ang child is up to 18 years old and 300, how many days bago siya mag-19. Pero sa TB, baliktad yung, ang age nyo kasi below 15, that's a childhood TB, but 15 years old and above childhood TB. So, please keep the term presumptive. Huwag kayo mag-confuse when you say presumptive TB, that is considered TB just symptomatologically wise or by chest x-ray, no, for intensified case finding. So, presumptive PTB in a child who is less than 15 years old will include, will be one with at least has one of the three main symptoms. For how long? 2 weeks. Number one, unexplained cough or wheezing, not responding to antibiotic or bronchodilators. Na 2 weeks. Ha? Number two, unexplained fever after ruling out other causes such as malaria or pneumonia. And the other, or three, unexplained weight loss or failure to thrive and no response to nutrition therapy. So, kung meron kang nakamakos ng child less than 50-year-old, it happens to have one of these three main signs and symptoms lasting for 2 weeks, you need to work up the child. Okay? Or the child happens to be a close contact of a known TB case and just having fatigue, reduced playfulness, reduced activity, and playfulness or poor appetite. So pag ganon, presumptive PTB. Or it could just be chest x-ray findings. Nag-iba na kasi I know that during we were in med school and it used to, we were taught that you cannot diagnose TB by x-ray alone. No? Pero ganun pa rin. No? But now, no, should you have a patient in your clinic and showing you an x-ray, showing signs of TB, at that time, presumptive TB pa lang yung impression mo. Pero you will have to work up. But for 15 years old and above, anyone, no, and it's called presumptive pulmonary TB if the child has any one of the following 2 weeks, for 2 weeks, either cough, ganun din, unexplained fever, unexplained weight loss, may nadagdag night sweats. O, tinatanong ko kayo, meron pa sa inyong ganyan? Does any one of you here have that? Any one of this for the last 2 weeks? Because if so, you are considered presumptive PTB. Or, presumptive PTB could also be a child who is 50 years old and above, whose chest x-ray findings are suggestive of TB, with or without symptoms of an x-ray lang, presumptive PTB. But, PLHIV stands for people living with HIV. So parang, if you heard, have you heard of that, Desna? Parang akala mo, people living, akala mo kasama yung may patient with HIV. Hindi. Pag sibari mong PLHIV, yung pasyente mismo na may HIV. So if the child has is infected with HIV, no, you consider presumptive TB, no, if the child has at least one or more of those signs and symptoms of the 4 signs and symptoms, even if it's less than 2 weeks, or any duration, or a chest x-ray with tuberculosis. Okay, so take note, any child who is 50 years old and older, okay, should be, who is diagnosed to have HIV. PTB, I'm sorry, who is diagnosed to have PTB, should be automatically screened for HIV. What about presumptive extrapulmonary TB? When we make a diagnosis of presumptive extrapulmonary TB, any child, no, with non-painful enlarged or cervical lymphadenopathy, with or without fistula, gibbous, recent onset. What do we do? Gibbous deformity of recent onset. Signs of TBM, no? Like stiffness or rigidity, drowsiness, not responding to antibiotic treatment with subacute. Usually if it's TB, the onset or often is subacute. Okay? With subacute onset or raised intracranial pressure, you also work up for TB. Presence of pleural effusion, peritoneal effusion, unexplained ascites. So just to make sure, pag may ascites, ano bang disease, anong organ ang involved pag may ascites? Usually what? Either liver, very good, or renal, di ba? So, syempre, work up pumunta for liver or renal disease. But But then, at the back of your mind, if it doesn't seem to be not explained by liver or renal disease, consider TB. Non-painful enlarged joint, or there could be signs of tuberculin hypersensitivity like flectinular. Nako, nakakalimutan namin mga doktor mahanapin na flectinular conjunctivitis. Or parang mabak, merong ano dito. Or that a child with erythema nodosum, because these are signs of tuberculin, supposedly tuberculin hypersensitivity. Okay, let's go to diagnosis. So, we still do tuberculin test, which what's the ano behind that is tuberculin delayed hypersensitivity. So, when is it reactive? Around 3 weeks to 3 months after the infection. So that's the incubation period. What's the incubation period? From the time the patient is exposed to the time he develops reactivity to tuberculosis. That's the incubation period. So it's around 3 weeks to 3 months. Some books would say 2 weeks. Pero I double check sa Nelson is 3 weeks to 3 months. Okay? However, a child can also develop reactivity to tuberculin following BCG. Yeah, yung mga na-BCG, nabigyan ng BCG, which we know is routinely given to babies in the Philippines. They may also come up with a reactive tuberculin test, but it's so usually the duration is less than 10 millimeters. And it is unlikely to persist beyond 10 years. So, so how is that done? 0.1 ml, 0.1 ml is administered intradermally here over the volar aspect of the arm and then read in 2 to 3 days. And what do you take note of? Induration. Actually, if it's reactive, nakita mo may parehong pula at sa pamamaga. Pero ang susukatin nyo yung induration, yung pamamaga. How? Across. Ganito ang induration. You measure it across the long axis of the arm and record it in millimeters. Okay? So, usually kinakapa mo yan yung border na kung saan yung paga. And that's what you measure. Actually, may training yan on tuberculin testing. So, what is considered reactive in the Philippines, no, regardless of BCG vaccination? So, you remember 2 values. For those with risk factors, and what would those risk factors be? History of exposure, with clinical signs and symptoms, and or chest x-ray suggestion of TB, and if the child is considered suppressed, an induration of at least 5 millimeters or more would be considered as significant. But if the child has doesn't have any of the risk factors, what is considered as a significant reaction is at least 10 millimeters or more. Kaya lang, pwedeng false negative. Ang tuberculin test, so a negative tuberculin test won't rule out TB. In the same way that normal x-ray won't rule out. In the same way as a negative exposure won't rule out. So talagang very challenging on your part to assess whether the child really has TB or not. So these are the risk factors. These are situations where that can decrease skin test or leading to a false negative tuberculin test. Very young age, sinabi ko yan, di ba? Lalo na pag newborn, less than 3 months old, the tuberculin won't be useful. Malnourished, immunosuppressed, certain viral infections, like measles, you will be taught next, hopefully, in the next term when we will be discussing virology. So usually, the tuberculin test is suppressed 4 weeks after a measles disease, a dog who develops measles. Certain vaccinations, MMR, even varicella, and overwhelming tuberculosis like tuberculosis meningitis, only half of the patients may have a positive tuberculin test. And they know 10% of normal children, 10 children with TB disease may have a false negative tuberculosis test. That's why you have to do the other parameters. One of them, of course, you need to do an X-ray. Routine yan na dapat pa-X-ray mo pag nag-isip ka ng TB. So, what are the most common findings? Do non-specific lymphadenopathy. The hallmark of primary infection, didn't you say, is the big regional lymphadenopathy, particularly on the hilar or paratracheal areas, with very small infiltrate. So, that's the hallmark of primary infection. Hilar 27%, paratracheal, hilar and paratracheal 22% of cases, and just paratracheal 1%. Best seen on lateral view, and around 10 to 22% of culture-proven TB, they have a normal chest exit. Naalala ko, was that 1 or 2 years ago, so I got a referral in a child with POTS, adolescent, walking, very actually he was first seen by our rheumatologist, Dr. Agalia, for back pain. But before Dr. Agalia, dami na niyang napuntahan. But Dr. Agalia was highly considering POTS, and true enough, turned out POTS. So, pinork up namin, pina-x-ray ko, normal. Pero buti pina-gene expert, Sputum positive. So, basically, it's like that, but the RSA is normal, but you work it out. Turns out to be TB. Anyway, yan. Secondary or progressive primary TB, like I said, primary progressive will have cavitation, especially in the apices, young apices. So, don't use this alone in the diagnosis of PTB, except if with the binary pattern. But, didn't we say earlier, it's one of the bases for presumptive. When you say presumptive PTB, it's based on what? Symptoms or chest exercise. At least nag-screen ka pa lang yan eh. Okay. So these are the, chest exercise from suggestive of PTB. Yan. Right? Hilar lymphadenopathy, a chronic pneumonia, hindi gumagaling clinically and radiographically yung pneumonia ng pasyente. The biliary pattern, okay? Pulmonary cavitations and even pleural effusion. Kaya pag may pleural effusion, whether the patient is symptomatic acutely or not, kasama yun, you need to screen for, especially if the cough has been going for a while, of course, you need to work up the result for TB. Alam ko na, ngayon ko lang na-realize, ako matanda na si Dr. Ramon. Kaya pala hindi gumagalaw. Hindi ko yun. Sorry. Matanda ko. Anyway, so yan, so of these 5, ito ba? Yun. Of these 5, wait. Of these 5 findings, yan, the biliary pattern is the one that will be highly suggestive of TB. The rest will be non-specific. Okay? Then you do a smear, okay? But nowadays, just 2 specimens is required. Just 2 specimens are required. Dati, early morning sputum once a day for 3 days. Pero ngayon, 2 na lang. But, there's what's called spot to spot. Same day, parang na balik-balik. You can do 2 specimen collection on the spot 1 hour apart. But not all kids are able to expectorate. Hindi dapat yung mag-hack. So you can do other body fluids. And in children, if you cannot get sputum, gastric aspirate. Or if it's TB and CSF. But don't you know, I did not include it, I forgot. There are studies in Vietnam. Anong ginagamit ng school? Hindi ba ako convinced? But they have, hindi ganun ka-sensitive, but in Vietnam, in that study, they get to detect the bacilli in the stool. And is that possible? Oo, kasi yung sputum nga daw, swallowed. No? So it can be passed on in the schools. But from experience, gastric aspirate pa rin yung napapadala. But in PCMC, they already have cartridge for stool, gene expert. Okay? However, AF Bispiritacoat is not so useful in children. Why? Because of the POC, bacillary danger of infection. Didn't we mention that? Didn't I mention that earlier, di ba? Oh. What about a culture when it's not so sensitive in children? It really is not routinely requested. It needs to get, if it's done, or it needs to be, it's usually part of the workup if drug-resistant TB is being suspected. Okay. And of course, histopath. Huh? So, whenever there are bukol-bukols, you remember it could be present as a bukol, right? You have to have a histop, if you can have a tissue, you can, if a tissue is available, you can send it for histopath. And if it were TB, the classic lesion would be as Cachetine granulomas. But what are the newer diagnostic tests? IGRA, which stands for interferon gamma release assay. So it's a blood test. Kinukunan ka ng dugo, tapos they subject it to a machine that measures ex vivo interferon gamma production from T lymphocytes in response to stimulation with antigen fairly specific to Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, it's similar to a tuberculin test, not the ST's tuberculin test, wherein it cannot distinguish latent infection from disease, and a negative test won't rule out infection or disease, just like TB, tuberculin skin test. So it is as sensitive as a tuberculin test, but considered more specific. Why? Because it doesn't cross-react with BCG. It's available, but it's kind of expensive. It's like available in NKT, lung center, but it costs like 5,000 pesos. Yung tuberculin test, 400. Medyo mahirap lang hanapin these days. Okay. Now, there's Gene Expert. You've heard of that? Okay. It's a real-time PCR assay to detect the TB bacilli. PCR. So what's good about PCR? Amplification, diba? So, able to detect hindi yung microbe, but yung genes niya, even if they're just few, through amplification, dumadami yun to the point that it gets detected. So, and this is now the diagnostic test of choice, and it's used not only to detect bacilli, but it's also used to screen for MDR TB, because why? It's able to detect rifampicin resistance. So I understand monoresistance to rifampicin is rare, so that if rifampicin resistance is detected, more often than not, resistant din daw sa INH. And MDR, as you may know, means multi-drug resistant. MDR TB is resistant to both two primary drugs, INH and rifampicin. So look, sensitivity and specificity among smear and children na lang. Pediatric studies reveal superior diagnostic capability on sputum and gastric aspirate compared to smear, AFB smears. So Gene Expert, 36 to 40% higher, more sensitive than smear microscopy. And full sensitivity was 86% with 98% specificity to detect rifampicin resistant. So, mas sensitive ang Gene Expert kaysa AFB smear. Nowadays, there's what is called Expert Ultra. Meron yan, no? It's a next generation assay with much better performance in children. So, sa sputum, what's called sensitivity, sputum 73, gastric 64%, and stool, 53%. And specificity, very good, very high specificity in either sputum, gastric aspirate, and even stool. So here, we have here in FEU, FECR type, ano yung bayad yata? Because in hospitals that have TB dots, libre. Supposedly libre. So this is now, but it should never, can gene expert replace culture? Yes or no? No. Kasi advantage ng culture, you get to not only to detect the organism, you can also be provided with susceptibility. Ang gene expert detection lang yan. Ha? So, gene expert can never replace mycobacterial culture, especially if suspecting drug resistance. But it's the primary diagnostic tool for presumptive PTB and extrapulmonary TB in children and adults. And just one specimen, no, would be enough. Okay. Ay, nakakita. Anyway, so TB diagnostic algorithm for children less than 15 years old. So, yun yung lahat. If it's a presumptive PTB, again, if it's presumptive, either by symptoms or chest X-ray, di ba? So here, look at this. What do you do next? Collect specimen, either sputum, if that has aspirin, or gastric aspirin. No? And then, if you follow this, you're supposed to immediately do gene expert. Kasi pag positive siya, that makes it bacteriologically confirmed. If negative, no, by gene expert, see if a chest X-ray has already been done. If done, if a chest X-ray was already done and is strongly suggestive of TB with clinical signs and symptoms, that makes it clinically diagnosed. But if the X-ray is normal, you may opt to treat them with a broad spectrum antibiotics, no, and follow up after 2 weeks because if the signs and symptoms persist and happens to be a contact of a known TB case, may classify it as clinically diagnosed. But if not a contact of a known TB case, this is the time you may perform tuberculin test. So if the tuberculin test is positive, classify again as clinically diagnosed. But if negative or unavailable, but signs and symptoms persist, eto, pwede kang mag-treat symptomatically, no? Empirically for TB. Pero usually mga ganitong situation, nare-refer yan sa mga consultants. It happens, no, that all the test negative, but you're highly suspicious of TB, we allow, no, TB at the start of anti-TB therapy. And how would you know it's TB? They respond to treatment. So dito, if you notice, dito, if you follow this, no, the DOH guideline, parang yung tuberculin test, inuhuli lang, no, but kaming mga matatanda, we've been used to doing tuberculin. So if it's available, sinasabi na namin from the start sa diagnostics. Ngayon, ito naman yung screening and diagnosis of TB disease. Nakat na naman. So, this is for adults. Kanina yung children. Again, for adults. So, yung TB, di ba, adult includes 15 years old and older. Okay, so yan. One, iba of these 4 signs and symptoms of TB. Ayun. Step 1, ito yun. So, again, collect sputum and request for gene expert. Kasi pag positive bacteriological confirm. Pero, if patient has not one of these 4 important signs and symptoms, and chest X-ray was not done yet, no, you request for a chest X-ray. Kasi if the symptoms, if the X-ray has suggestive of TB, pupunta ka na naman doon. Kasi ang TB, di ba? And then you work up. But if the chest X-ray is normal, assess. You may have to assess the patient for other diseases. So, this is the TB case classification. It's kind of BC. So either you what do you call this? So if you establish it as disease, then first you classify whether bacteriologically confirmed or clinically diagnosed. So it's bacteriologically confirmed if positive gene expert and or AFP smear, di ba? Or culture. Pero bibihira naman ginagawa yung culture. Pero clinically diagnosed, there. It's just clinically diagnosed if by clinical signs and symptoms with a positive chest X-ray or other imaging test Histopath, alam mo pag histopath, clinically diagnosed din. Ha? And the patient or the doctor decides to treat it, that is clinically diagnosed. Then, so, you classify either as pathologically confirmed or clinically diagnosed. And then, you also classify whether, as to anatomic site, whether pulmonary or extrapulmonary. Ha? And classifies either new or retreatment. Pag new, never treated for tuberculosis or less than 1 month lang of TB treatment. Ha? Yung the giving of INH preventive therapy is not considered as treatment. It's retreatment if, with a retreatment, if the patient has previous TB treatment for 1 month or more, regardless of the treatment condition. Tapos yun, ayan, you classify into the drug-resistant pattern. DS is drug susceptible TB, so susceptible siya sa lahat ng gamot. It could be monoresistance, INH resistant only, rifampicin resistant only, but if it's MDR, because I tell you earlier, it's resistant to both INH and rifampicin. So, in the Philippines, there are cases already as pre-XDR. So either if pre-XDR, they are MDR plus resistant to either aquinolone or Secolite injectable. But when the patient is resistant, the bacilla is resistant to is MDR and resistant to both quinolones and Secolite injectables, that makes the case XDR. Okay. So this is a treatment regimen. Dalawa yan. Regimen 1 and regimen 2. Ha? So, regimen 1 is for all types of TB except TB of the bones, CNS bones and joints. So, for regimen 1, that's for both PTB and extrapulmonary TB except TB of the CNS bones and joints. So, usually 2 months of quadruple HRZEH, INH, R, rifampicin, Z, PZA-E, ethambutol, and 4 months of HR. Ha? Pero when treating for CNS bone or bone joint, TB of the CNS bone or joint, the duration of treatment is 12 months. 2 months of HRZ and extended yung, that's the intensive phase, the first 2 months. And then the next phase of treatment will be the maintenance phase. So 10 months ang HR. So Z, paracetamol, usually are dropped, and maintenance consists of just 10 months of isoniazid and rifampicin. Ay, napakatilig na ka pa. Kaya lang, there is, wait, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, ayan, meron ng what's called shortened treatment for children. Shortened. Just 2 months of 4 drugs HRZE and just 2 months. And the maintenance phase consists of just 2 months of isoniazid and rifampicin. So, when is this indicated? Nasa Nelson's din yan. Is here in the Philippines, it was adopted by the Department of Health in 2024. So take note. So you can use this for children and adolescents. Number 1, who are 3 months old to 16 years old. 3 months to 16 years old. Who have undergone bacteriologic testing and or chest x-ray. So all in all, 4 months lang siya. Drug susceptible TB as compared to the 6-month regimen. Okay, and who can be given this shortened 4-month regimen? So ito yung they should meet all of the following criteria. Letter A, kaya lang naputo. Letter A baseline chest X-ray consistent with non-severe TB. So non-severe TB means an intrathoracic lymph node TB without significant airway obstruction or or a pulmonary TB confined to one lobe with no cavities and no biliary pattern, or it could be an uncomplicated pleural effusion without pneumothorax or empyema. So dapat the patient should be able to fulfill any one of these criteria. B, respiratory or GI specimen with showing MTB negative, trace very low or low using GeneXpert, yan, GeneXpert or ultra or smear negative. What if GeneXpert or ultra is not available? Ha? And C, the child or adolescent only is considered to have mild symptoms. Anuhin nyo yan. So make sure this shortener is indicated if you are able to fulfill all these three criteria. In settings without access to chest X-ray, a 4-month treatment regimen may be considered in children and adolescents 3 months to 16 years old with mild symptoms and meeting either of the following. What are mild symptoms? Do not require hospitalization, no asymmetric or persistent wheezing, no signs of extrapulmonary tuberculosis other than TB, peripheral lymph node TB, and absence of the following: severe malnutrition, respiratory distress, high fever, severe pallor, seizures, restlessness, irritability, or lethargy. So kung walang X-ray, a 4-month regimen may be considered in children 3 months to 16 years old with mild symptoms and meeting either of the following criteria. For A, again, yung specimen, respiratory, the specimen using GeneXpert is negative or shows trace very low or low. Bacilli, UC, or ultras, or GeneXpert or Expert Ultra, or smear negative, or the isolated extrathoracic or peripheral lymph node TB without confirmed or suspected involvement of other extrapulmonary sites of disease, no, by histological, biochemical, and other tests. And imaging modalities are not suggestive of extrapulmonary TB. But if without chest X-ray and bacteriologic testing, the 4-month shorter is not being recommended. Instead, the standard 6-month regimen is the one being recommended. So, magagamit mo lang yung 4-month shortened regimen pag mapa-X-ray mo at available yung bacteriologic testing or AFC. So, I hope you take note of that. So, daily dosing is recommended. Here in the shortened regimen, daily dosing is recommended, preferably using fixed dose dispersibles or single dose formulations. Kaso wala tayong fixed dose formulations in the Philippines. UFDC available is only for older patients and those weighing more than 25 kilos. And please also be familiar with the recommended dose for each of the drug. So usually, IMH is 10 milligrams per kilo, 15, paracetamol 30, ethambutol 20. Ito wala na syrup. And in children, take note, there is a maximum dose. Do not give beyond maximum. So it's 300 milligrams per INA, 600 for rifampicin, not to exceed 2 grams per pyrazinamide, and ethambutol not to exceed 1.2 grams daily. Okay? So may fixed dose combination for your information. So far what's available is yung adult preparation. Okay, that usually is given for adolescents. So all presumptive retreat, what if it's a retreatment? What if you need to treat again? If per assessment, you need to retreat again. It should be tested using a GeneXpert to determine at least rifampicin resistance while waiting for the result. So if the result is non-resistant to rifampicin, standard first line regimen should still be the one that will be used. Kung non-resistance, if there's non-resistance to rifampicin. Okay. Presumptive, so when you consider presumptive drug-resistant TB cases, ito, you consider positive drug resistant in a child having previous history of TB treatment, nagamot na siya noon, and needs to be assessed to be needing treatment again. Or they happen to be close contacts of a known drug-resistant TB case, or a non-converter of drug-resistant TB regimen. So in any of these situations, they will have to be referred to the programmatic management of drug-resistant TB clinics. So this is just nice to know because I myself am not very familiar to this. These are the drugs being used for drug-resistant TB. So if you see closely, iba yung mga gamot, no? There is what's called bedaquiline, there's linezolid. You know, in our practice, we use linezolid for one of the options for MRSA, no? But may it's supposedly, and it's very expensive, but supposedly also covers for TB. There's clofazimine, cycloserine, and so forth and so on. So, medyo mahirap yun. So, it's just nice to know that there's a different set of drugs to treat for drug-resistant TB. So, you make sure, when you take for tuberculosis, you explain to the family the importance of compliance. Kasi pag hindi nila iniinom yung gamot o patigil-tigil, that could be a risk factor for secondary resistance. Okay, so the follow-up is very important. Okay, make sure that they are compliant. And in children, DOTS, directly observed therapy strategy is the preferred strategy. So dati, gusto nila na yung pasyente makita araw-araw sa local health center at doon nila bibigyan ng gamot, which is not practical kasi syempre, buti kung kapit-bahay mo lang sa center. What if you need to, so not all can afford not to be going to the clinic every day. So now, when you start treatment, you look for a reliable person who can give the drug religiously. So, you need to see them at least monthly. Why? Okay? To check on adherence. Number 2, to check if the drugs are taken appropriately. Remember, there are 2 drugs, INH and rifampicin, that will have to be given on an empty stomach. Be very specific about that. Because the presence of food may, or drink, may affect absorption. So when is the stomach empty? At least 30 minutes to 1 hour before breakfast. So, hindi naman parating, Doc, dapat ba before breakfast parating binibigyan yung Doc? Hindi naman, but that's the best time kasi galing yung batang natulog. So pagkagising niya, even before maggatas o pakainin mo, ibigay mo na yung gamot. 30 minutes to 1 hour before breakfast. If they cannot do it before breakfast because they're all in a hurry to go to work or to school, you look for the best and pwede rin gabi. So, 30 minutes to an hour before breakfast, or it could, the stomach is also empty 2 hours after a meal. For example, natapos siya naggatas or kumain ng 7 a.m. From 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., wala siyang dapat kainin. So at 9 a.m., ibigay yung gamot, one after the other. Pagkabigay ng gamot, they have to wait for at least 30 minutes before the child gets already fed. So explain that, kasi some mothers would wait for 2 hours after a meal. They give the meds, but after the meds are given, pakainin agad o pagkatasin. You defeated the purpose. So you find time to explain that very well. So then you check on adherence, you check on proper administration of INH and rifampicin, and you check for adverse effects. Remember the 3 primary drugs, HRZ, are potentially hepatotoxic. So tignan mo, nagsusuka, vomiting, abdominal pain, or mag-develop sila na paninilaw. But take note pala, when a child is given any pain on rifampicin, magiging pula yung orange color with EE. Sometimes even the schools, even the peers. So you tell them that so they won't get scared. So the medications have to be given daily. Okay. And what do you take note of also when seeing them monthly? You take note for signs of clinical improvement. Kasi sa bata, clinical, mostly yung assessment mo for clinical improvement is clinical. So somehow, no, there will be improved appetite. Remember, poor appetite is one of the non-specific, common non-specific manifestation. Aba, kumakain na siya. There will be weight gain. You'll be happy on that. And another reason why you should be seeing them monthly, to adjust the dose, that just in case, depending on the weight gain, just in case they have not reached maximum doses yet. Yan. So just doses, and somehow there will be disappearance of the signs and symptoms that were present initially, and somehow your physical exam by then would be normal. What about radiographic evaluation? Do you always have to be preparing for a chest X-ray, repeating a chest X-ray after the intensive phase? No. Take note, if what we're seeing were just hyaluradenopathy, it may take 2 to 3 years before the hyaluradenopathy will disappear. But somehow, you have, you have recorded clinical improvement. So, pulmonary infiltrates usually clear in about 2 to 9 months. A normal chest X-ray is not necessary to discontinue. But guys, remember to repeat 2 to 3 months after chemotherapy if for those patients having progressive primary or those patients with complicated pulmonary, this is especially without clinical improvement. So yan, pag ganyan yung sitwasyon, make sure you have an X-ray after 2 months of the intensive phase. Pero kung hyaluradenopathy, hindi kailangan. What will you be, should you be doing a chest X-ray on completion of treatment? Again, it's not routine, but most of us would do, just to see how the chest look, the lungs look like after completion of treatment. Kung may hyaluradenopathy, huwag kang matakot. For as long as they were compliant and there was note of clinical improvement. Because like we said, those lymph nodes may persist even for years. That's why if the child would have subsequent X-rays later on, ideally should always be compared, not through the reviews. Baka pag binasa ulit ng hyaluradenopathy, gagamutin na naman. When in fact, baka yun pa rin yung nakita earlier. Okay? What about bacteriologic evaluation? Sila yung nag-smear positive. So you need to repeat the AFB smear after the intensive phase. So take note that on follow-up, it's a smear, AFB smear that is requested, not gene expert. Remember, you've heard of that, yung gene expert, so sensitive is able to detect the organ even months later, but it won't necessarily mean that those two are viable. So if you're positive, no, in case yung tamang perspective na positive pa rin, after intensive, we just repeat the gene expert at 5th to the 6th month of treatment, because if still persistently positive, then that would suggest drug resistance. So drug-resistant TB, features of a child suspected of having drug-resistant TB. Number 1, contact with a known case of drug-resistant TB. So bakit yung tinatanong yan? And that child could possibly have primary drug resistance. When you say primary drug resistance, sa umpisa pa lang, yung nalanghap ng bata, resistant ba sila na? Because the source has drug resistance, so you have to be careful of that. But most of the time, yan. But drug resistance should also be considered in a child who does not show any clinical signs of hearing improvement despite adequate treatment for at least 2 months. So yan, persistent fever, worsening of chest X-ray findings, group complications arise, poor weight gain, and well-being. So napaka-importante talaga that you really should be following up the child monthly, especially the first 2 months. Or there is recurrence of the signs and symptoms after adherence to treatment. Alam mo nang gugulo dyan, pag merong hika yung pasyente. So when you come across the child na ginamot mo sa TB, ayan, nagiging sickly na naman, especially kung may hika, and then you find a way to control the the hiccup, the asthma of the child. Okay. But you explain to the person, hindi naman ibig sabihin, mother, na pagkatapos natin gamutin, eh, hindi na siya magkakasakit. Siyempre, ang virus, kung magkakasakit na, madali na lang siyang gumaling. Ha? So this is the way how treatment is assessed, completed. Hanapin nyo na lang yan, completed. Is an individual who has completed the prescribed duration of treatment and remains well or asymptomatic during the entire period, lost to follow up, an individual who interrupted TB preventive treatment for 2 consecutive months, the one who died, whose treatment failure is an individual who developed active TB disease anytime while on TB preventive therapy. So, there are different outcomes depending on the outcome and the compliance to treatment. Okay, now we go, it can be prevented. So, this is what's called TB, TPT, TB preventive therapy or latent TB infection treatment. So treatment, this is offered to individuals who are at risk of developing active TB disease to reduce that risk. So first, rule out, you have to rule out that the child doesn't active TB disease before considering TB preventive therapy. So this is also referred to as latent TB infection treatment. Okay, this is a kind of disease study. So what do you do? Excuse me. So kung meron kang pasyenteng, so usually this is considered a child exposed to one who has tuberculosis. Isn't it part of the, when you look at the symptoms, look at the x-ray, and you can even do tuberculin test. Kasi yung exposed either healthy, but he may have no symptoms, the child may have no symptoms but has a positive tuberculosis. Latent yun, di ba? Okay. Kaso sorry that this was cut, pero dito, anyway, but so, you work up the child you assess symptomatically, and you may even include chest x-ray, and if active TB disease is true that you may opt to do tuberculin test. Kaya lang, you concentrate on this red box. There are situations that a tuberculin test is not even required, but patient is eligible for TB preventive therapy. So if active TB disease has been ruled out, so who are eligible for TPT even without a tuberculin test? So number 1, yung household contact of children less than 5 years old and the source is bacteriologically confirmed TB index. Number 2, yung children 5 years old or older, also household contacts of bacteriologically confirmed TB index. So they're older, 5 years and older, but you need to protect them because they have risk factors. Yan, either they have HIV, they're diabetic, or they're smokers, or on immunosuppressive therapy, they happen to be malnourished, or living with multiple people on anti-TB in the same household. Okay. Tapos, another situation where the tuberculin test is not even required in a child who is infected with HIV after active TB disease is ruled out and is 1 year old and older. Okay. Sige, go. Kasi yan, perform tuberculin test in the following. So, sino yung nakagawa mo ng tuberculin test? Less than 5 years old, household contact, pero yung source is only clinically diagnosed. Or 5 years old and older, household contact to a bacteriologically confirmed TB source but has no risk factors. Tapos all ages, and they happen to be just close contacts of bacteriologically confirmed TB. Ano yung close contact? Sinabi ko kanina? They don't stay in the same house. Pero nagbibisi-bisita siya, nakasama niya in the last 3 months. Okay, at saka Other risk factors, dialysis patient, those on dialysis, patients preparing for an organ or hematologic transplant, or on anti-tumor necrosis treatment, or those patients with cirrhosis, pero wala naman yata sa Pilipinas. So what drug is given? Up to now, yung what we're very familiar with is the 6 months of INH therapy. Ha? Yan. So usually pag nagtatanong ako yan, ganyan yung tinatanong ko. So, pero may newer regimens na for children. Shortened din. Giving 2 drugs. So INH and rifampicin daily. Ha? But most of, so either that, but all these years for TB preventive therapy, we went treated for latent TB yon 6 months of INH is what most of us give. But there's already a short-term preventive therapy giving INH and rifampicin for just 3 months. Okay, we're on the last slide. BCG, is it still useful? Yes. In a way, it's here in the Philippines, it's given routinely at birth. Is it protective? In a way, yes. Because, we found out that children being given BCG is 50% effective in preventing pulmonary TB in adults, but protection is much higher against extrapulmonary TB. 50% protective against disseminated and TB. But is the TB vaccine that will be more protective is other. Meron sila, if you search the internet, trying to come up with a TB vaccine that will be more protective. But for now, makontento na lang tayo ng BCG. Okay? So, Mariosep na mga kahaba. That's just TB. Anyways, we have 1 hour. So, go for a break, 5 minutes.